Welcome, ladies. This is Empowered Ease, the podcast where we challenge the patriarchy by empowering women to take control of their health, mind, body, and spirit. My name is Jen Olinger. I'm a holistic coach, founder of the Moonflower Collective, and a critical care nurse. Join me each week as I interview healers, health practitioners, and women like you while they share their inspiring stories and their unique approaches to women's health and empowerment. So, like and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow along as we learn to step into our power and embrace a life of ease. Hello and welcome to Empowered Ease. My guest today is Marta Kagan. She is a body confidence and sensuality coach working with women 50 and over to reconnect with their sensuality, confidence, and pleasure. Welcome, Marta.
Thank you, Jen. So good to be here.
I'm so happy you're here with us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm feeling in my body, in my pleasure, and in gratitude to be here with you. So,
all beautiful things. I love that so much. Okay, so I am going to have a million questions, I'm sure. But tell me just a little bit about what being a body confidence and sensuality coach is.
it's really about helping women, particularly I'm working with women over 40 for the most part, but it's helping women feel sensual, confident, alive, right? Radiant, helping them to love their bodies instead of criticize their bodies, which is what we are conditioned to do from a very, very early age.
Yes.
So yeah, it's taking your power back through your sensuality, ultimately. Yeah.
I love that. Beautiful. So, tell me a little bit how you got into this.
Yeah. Well, I started coaching, just life coaching, right? Generic life coaching, quote unquote, in 2001. So, like when coaching was still brand new,
Yeah.
studied with Thomas J. Leonard, who was the father of coaching when he was still alive. And yeah, at the time, I think I was always a seeker, someone who was always interested in how the human mind works and how the human body works and how can we make ourselves better and how can we live life as fully as possible, right? And that was in my 20s still. And so I did that for a while, and then I did a whole bunch of other things professionally in marketing, with working with tech startups and doing all this stuff that has nothing to do with being a body confidence and sensuality coach, other than living in a human body and dealing with burnout and dealing with stress and dealing with all the pressures that, all humans have to deal with, but that are maybe a little bit unique to being in a female body.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I hit my 40s, unlike a lot of women, I didn't have the like midlife crisis panic. I thought 40 is going to be amazing. 40 is going to be my new 30. Felt really good. And then I'm making this a shorter story than it could actually be, but bear with me. I woke up one morning and felt like, wait a second, is this it? Like, is this it? Like now I'm just going to get older and become irrelevant. And like, I've missed the window and now I should just go knit and become a grandmother, which is kind of what the message was, right? Like
That dulling down feeling that
yeah,
society tells you it's time to do. Yes.
yeah. Like I hit my expiration date, right? And I'm no
Yeah.
relevant. And that came a little bit late for me. I also at the time decided to stop drinking alcohol, to like hit the reset button in a big way in my life. And that led to me recognizing how detached I'd become from my own body, from my own sensuality. I'd been married for a couple decades at that point. I'd raised two kids. I just kind of forgot about me, like the sensual, alive, radiant version of myself that in her 20s was like, oh, we're going to live this amazing life. We're going to coach people. We're going to, I had all these dreams. And here I
Yeah.
was in my 40s, still selling that, but feeling like I'm not living it, you know?
Mhm.
And so I started seeking again, and I actually stumbled on a book called Pussy, a Reclamation.
I just bought it. I haven't read it yet, but I just bought that book.
It is a must read. I give it to everyone. I recommend it to everyone. Um, and that was like the beginning of the awakening of like, oh yeah, there's this part of me, this, where all of my life force energy lives, this part of my body that has literally birthed real humans and
Yeah,
the
you're a badass.
power. Yeah. And that kind of started my recognition of how essential pleasure is, how it's really the antidote to most of what modern life hands us that sort of takes us out of aliveness. And also recognizing how much we're taught to believe that pleasure is like frivolous. It's something
Oh, yeah.
you only get to have after you've suffered sufficiently, you
And
know?
that's very specific to females, I think, like in a lot of ways too.
Yes. Yeah. So that was the beginning of me really looking for, okay, so what does that mean? Great. Like I'm buying into this and Mama Gina's telling me like pussy is the path. Um,
Love it.
so I basically doubled down on investing on myself, doing exactly what most women don't do, which is invest in themselves, right? We're always investing in
Ugh,
our children, our partners, our girlfriends, our sisters, or whoever.
whoever's in need around us that we love.
Yeah. But I decided to make that investment in myself, in my pleasure, in basically fueling the next chapter of my life. That led to me ending my 24-year marriage. That led to me, shifting my focus from mental and emotional fitness, which is kind of where I was focusing as a coach, to really bringing pleasure into it, to getting certified as a pleasure coach from Mama Gina's School of Womenly Arts, and making this, the focus of the services that I provide and the change I want to make in the world.
Oh my gosh, how beautiful. Okay, so before we get into kind of the details of that, because I have many questions,
Yeah.
my first question is a personal one for me because as someone who's like stepping into an entrepreneurial role and stepping into that, it's a process of letting yourself be seen in different ways and then addressing whatever comes up in that. If you're not an entrepreneur, that's what happens. But it's super hard. But stepping up in this way, in this light, being like a pleasure coach, a sensuality coach, like I just tell me about what that process was like for you because internally I'm like, fuck yeah. But I'm like, well, that would be so hard to go out there and like speak that. So tell
Yeah.
me your tricks.
Yeah. No, you're so right, because society tells us as women that we shouldn't enjoy pleasure, that we should, like we should be good girls, right? And we should be virgins until we're married or whatever, depending on kind of what your religious and social upbringing, cultural upbringing is. But the core message to all women, I think, regardless of culture, is you shouldn't be the center of attention. You shouldn't play big. You should be humble and small. You shouldn't like sex. You shouldn't talk about sex. You shouldn't, you know, be sexy, except in very specific situations where it's okay.
Right.
So yeah, there are a ton of messages. And for me personally, I struggled with like how to introduce that shift as my focus, right? Going from mental and emotional fitness, which is free of shame. There's no shame associated with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There
That's
used
the
to
word I
be.
think I'm looking for. There's shame when you bring this up. Yeah. Shame's the hardest.
Yeah. And it's been a process. It's been a process of feeling into that, of walking my talk, feeling the shame that society has given me and releasing it because it's not mine. Right.
Mm-hmm.
None of us was born ashamed of our bodies, of our body parts, of how they look, of how we touch them or don't touch them. Like that is all learned. So it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of an unlearning and a remembering the core truth that, you know, once upon a time, sensuality and sexuality was seen as a divine gift, like a gift
Mm-hmm.
from the gods. It is a beautiful, sacred thing. And over millennia, we have corrupted that in many ways for many reasons, which maybe is beyond the scope of this podcast.
You
But
can
yeah,
talk about the patriarchy if you want. I love it.
oh,
Okay.
we're gonna. Rarely do I have a conversation that doesn't touch on that.
Me too.
Yeah, it's the struggle is real, and
Hmm.
it's become more comfortable the longer I've been talking about it and putting myself out there. And this is probably the biggest pro tip I'll give you is surround yourself with as many women as you can who are also in this work, in this space, talking this talk, who use the word pussy liberally and aren't all ashamed about it, who will express their sensuality in ways that, are real and true and genuine. When you start to spend time around that kind of sisterhood, it becomes, we normalize what should be normal anyway.
Oh my gosh, I love that you said that. This comes up every single one of the episodes I've had so far. I think I've recorded like 8 of them now, but women healing community, it's so important. We need a community around us of like-minded people who hold us up. It's how I get through every day. And I love that you said that because it literally comes up every episode, no matter who I'm talking to. It's so powerful to surround yourself with women who believe in you, who get what you're working on, and who are encouraging you to step into that discomfort. I love that so much.
And the only reason why we don't do that already and automatically is patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Should we come back to it? Right.
Yeah.
Patriarchy looked at the feminine as weak, as
Mm-hmm.
subservient, as not as important, and looked at how we gathered. Naturally, women used to gather all the time in community, right? Like that's what we did. We gathered in circles, and then they burned us for it.
Mm-hmm.
So the part of the patriarchy that has separated us and created that sister wound where we look at other women as the competition, right? For the male partner,
Mm-hmm.
the competition for this thing or that thing is why we're not doing that. But it is so natural actually, and so essential and so beautiful and powerful and beneficial and healing and all the things.
Yes, our culture really reinforces, which is so sad because I believe it's the root of a lot of women's struggles is that our value is in what we provide to others, which is beautiful that a lot of us are caregivers and provide to others, but that is not our value.
Agreed.
It's beautiful, it's very powerful, but that's not our purpose here. And I think our culture tricks us into thinking that's our purpose. Sometimes it can be confusing. So
Absolutely.
I want to know, what is some of the number one complaints that when women come to you that they're worried about or struggling with?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's the universal loss of feeling sensual at all. And that happens over time. It happens between like the demands of life, whether you're a mother or not, taking care of others, children, parents, spouses, coworkers, whoever.
Yeah.
It comes through the conditioning, right? Patriarchal conditioning, which is you should be a good girl, and you should keep your legs crossed, you should dress a certain way, and only say certain things, and so it's a combination of all these factors that just keep us more and more and more and more disconnected from how we really feel, from our true emotions, right? That tell you that you're too emotional. You should keep it together, right? You shouldn't feel the way that you feel. No one wants to talk about periods or the fact that women are actually on a monthly cycle. Hello, like for decades, this is what happens, and somehow we're supposed to just pretend that's not happening. It's really just a rejection of the feminine altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the number one complaint is I feel numb. I feel disconnected. I don't remember what it's like to be sensual. I hate my body. I don't like this thing. I don't like that thing. So it's a lot of internalized patriarchy, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of internalized misogyny. We
Mm-hmm.
just attack ourselves.
Oh, I get it. I feel some of that sometimes. So I love that you said that and gave that a voice. So when you're working with women, what kind of so I got on your website. I saw you have a lot of services, but what is the foundation of those services when you start working with women to reclaim this power?
Yeah, so there's a couple paths. So of course there's the one-on-one coaching path where we're really working together for 3, 6, 12 months on reclaiming your power, your sensuality. There's a lot that goes into that. The more common path is people will come in through the Sensual Sisterhood, which is a free community that I've started on School. It's got about 250-ish members there now. And
I
inside
love
there,
School, by the way.
School's
I
awesome.
love
Yeah.
School. Yeah.
Community, right? That's a big
Yeah.
piece of it. There's community. So there's it's a group of over 250 women over 40 who are
Mm-hmm.
specifically there to reclaim their sensuality, their confidence, to feel more pleasure in life. So there you'll find different tools and practices and rituals that you can practice on your own. We also have live sessions where we're teaching or coaching, in the moment. But it starts with a couple things: unlearning some of the limiting beliefs and some of the patriarchal conditioning that we've already touched on, and a lot more because we're just scratching the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to access pleasure in your body. Like, it's very practical and really requires you to do the thing. It's not a this is not a discussion. It's not an exercise. It's like, I want you to feel your feelings, and I'm going to show you, and I want you to feel your body, and I'm going to show you how. And that's
Mm-hmm.
like the crux of it.
I love that. That's what, so I coach women through burnout. And for, I would say maybe half the women that feeling their body, that connection is completely lost. And for some of them, like half of them, we start there where they're just like learning to like
Yeah.
sit and take up space is difficult. So I can't imagine addressing some of these more deeper, like what we consider shameful things, and how empowering that must be when you finally claim it.
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is, unlike therapy, like if you worked with a therapist on shame or guilt or sensuality, I think there's a lot of shadow work and a lot of, yeah, getting into like trauma and wounding that created, right, the shame in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas pleasure coaching really comes at it from, I just need your body to feel pleasure. I just need to, my job is to help you find within yourself those access points that let you remember what your body knows how to do, independent of what happens up here. Because this is what we spend most of our lives up here, right? In our
Mm-hmm.
heads, thinking and analyzing and telling stories about things. And I'm trying to actually make that stop and for you to tune into what's happening in this meat suit. And specifically through pleasure, because you're going to lean into that versus like a lot of things that make you draw away. So it happens really naturally, with just a little bit of, coaching to get you there. And the transformation is so instant, because that sensual, that sexual energy that lives in your body is unbelievably powerful. Like, it literally creates life. So of course it can change your mood. Of course it can reset your mindset. Of course it can make you feel powerful again really quickly.
It's beautiful. I love that. So I'm hearing there's a lot of physical practice to this.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yep.
Awesome. So are there any common myths about this that you end up dispelling with women, or anything, misconceptions that women come to you with that you're commonly
So many.
mm-hmm.
Starting with number one is probably that there's something wrong with you. There's something that needs to be fixed. Like, that's the first one I try to undo or unprogram, because it's so ingrained. Again, it starts so early, right? Like, you need to fix this about your body. You'll be better when. No, that's the first one. And then there's a lot of shame, as we've already touched on, because again, the culture says you can only dress a certain way, you can't behave, you can't say certain things, you can't, there's so many rules that have been constructed around what's okay for a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those away. And the beautiful thing, Jen, is that when you're doing this in sisterhood, one-on-one also has power. But when you're there with a group of women who are feeling the same things and struggling with the same things and watching each other and celebrating each other as they come alive, like literally that's what's happening. Oh, it's like angels singing. It's really, really, really potent and powerful. And the changes happen so fast.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So why women over 40?
Um, because I'm I'm 53. That just feels like relevant to what I'm going through and where I have the most lived experience right now. The truth is, these things are valuable and apply to women of all ages. And my hope is that over time, um, my universe will include women and girls, for that matter, right, of all
Yeah.
ages. But for now, that's just kind of where I'm starting, because that's that's where I'm at. That's where I was at recently, and that's where I'm still at. So
I hear you. I hear you. I think there's something powerful about this age, though. It's like the age where we shift from like trying to prove who we are to valuing our peace a little more. And there's just so much power as women settle into that, that I feel like these are the women who might be wanted a little more. And maybe that's not true because these younger generations are doing a lot more than I expected. But
totally. And the circumstances change, in this chapter of life. My kids are grown now, so they're out of the house. So I'm not dealing with like parenting daily. Um,
mm-hmm.
you know, the changes that come with perimenopause and menopause introduce a new set of challenges and also a new set of freedoms, right? There's less
Mm-hmm.
about birth control. There's less concern about like when can we have sex because the kids are around or there's some need, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
everything starts to shift, and at the same time society is telling us you're no longer relevant. You can no longer produce new humans, so we don't really care about you anymore. We're going to sell you anti-aging things and things that will make us money, that that continue to feed this idea that there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed, that you've expired. But the truth is, this is when we get our superpowers, because we're liberated from some of those things, because we give fewer fucks, because we have fewer people to take care of, potentially.
Yeah.
Because we're not necessarily cycling the same way every month and quite as, I hesitate to use the word triggered, but as activated by hormonal fluctuations. So yeah, I think your point is spot on, that this is a special time in a woman's life. And we're
Mm-hmm.
only one of three species where females actually live beyond their reproductive years, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's a purpose. We serve a purpose, and we're just starting to figure that out. And I want to empower more women to jump on in.
I love, love, love that you know that too, because that's one of my favorite things. Because they're all species with like overdeveloped frontal lobes, so it's all the connection species. So it's so beautiful, and it has a lot of value. We have evolved that we put women offline, and they have so much value that we have kept them around for longer after they're offline, creating babies. That's so beautiful, so
Yes.
powerful. So, when women come to you, is there any initial fears that you face a lot with women that they need to overcome to be able to step into this? Because I just see a lot of, I don't know, I'm making it up in my head maybe, but I'm envisioning a lot of hold up in some of these ladies.
No, you're right. I mean, it runs the gamut, right? There's women who have grown up in who have a religious or family background that was very conservative and makes, even like the word pussy will never come out of their mouth. Like that
Yeah.
there's a lot of discomfort and there's a lot of getting comfortable with, they may not have even ever looked at that part of their body, for example, right? So we're really starting in new territory. And then there's women who, have had varying degrees of liberation around their sensuality, but we, myself included, we still live in a patriarchal world culture. There's no way around it. So we
Mhm.
all have that internalized, conditioning no matter what. So it really runs the gamut. But what I think is amazing is how quickly we can like fall into the knowing that this is normal, that this is true, that this is sacred, that this is beautiful and powerful, and that there's all of the shame and guilt and taboo associated with it is a construct that was put on it, that it's not real. So like that falls away pretty quickly in these containers.
So if women at home are listening to you and like, yes, I need this, where would you suggest that they start? Or how would you get started?
I would invite them to come join the Sensual Sisterhood, which is the free community where you can sort of
Mhm.
get a taste of some pleasure tools and practices, where you can start to feel the sisterhood support of the community, right? People sharing what their experiences are, sharing what problems they're having and looking for solutions, or sharing pleasure rituals, things like that. And then once they get their toes wet and they're like, okay, I want more, I really want to work on this, then you can become a member of the Pleasure Playground, which is the paid community. I kind of think of it as like the pleasure gym. It's a playground, so much more fun than a gym,
Yeah.
And that's where we get into some of the more hands-on practices, pun intended.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So, it I'm gonna have to cut this part out because I just had a brain fart. Sorry.
I love when that happens. It happens all the time.
I want to get more into your story here a little bit. I'm trying to think how to really get into it. There's so much here to say.
Yeah. And my story is like, I'm such a mutt, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I've been all over the road in my journey, and the only thing that's really stayed consistent is a desire to be true to myself, a desire to keep, improving in some way, learning something, growing, evolving.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. It's funny because I struggle sometimes with keeping my story concise because like, which chapter are we talking about? You know
Right.
what
I
I
know a
mean? There was like the
lifetime
getting
is so
sober
long,
chapter.
right?
There was the like
Yeah.
starting my career and defying expectations chapter. There was the what the fuck is social media chapter, which is like a whole different version of me.
Right. Oh my God. I know. I'm in that chapter. Like, do I really need to learn this? I guess I do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the women that you're helping then. What are some of the transformations you see and some of the powerful things you see these women embodying or embracing or the changes, your shifts you're seeing in these women that you're working with?
I think the most beautiful, potent change is women going from not feeling comfortable looking at themselves in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
hating what they see, or, kind of like even in their body language, you see this
Mm-hmm.
like discomfort to seeing a woman who can look at herself in the mirror with soft, loving eyes, who can um, trust her own intuition again, her own instincts, like listen to her body instead of the stories that have been implanted really by other people in her head, right? The voices that are critical that are actually, they sound like your voice, but they're not, they're like mom, society, this guy, that guy. So just seeing them like literally like blossom like a flower, right? Just like open up from being like tight and tense and closed off and stressed.
Kind of settling into themselves a little bit.
Yes. And it's so much a shift in not like what did you achieve or what goals or like what happened on the outside. It's so much of an internal shift where you go from struggling and tolerating to enjoying and receiving, right? Which is actually like the more natural state for females to be in receptive mode instead of like constantly caregiving, which is what we've become conditioned to do forever. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but on a practical level, I've seen things like women who, I have a client, for example, Mindy, who was in a job for, I want to say 5 or 6 years, really was underpaid, underappreciated, was an incredible performer, but she just didn't have the belief in herself to even ask for what she was worth, right? So we're playing with pleasure and sensuality, and it's showing up in how she is in her professional life. She's able to actually go in and ask for the raise and ask and get it because of how she's going for it, right?
That
Um,
was going to be my next question. What are some of the unexpected benefits of this that you have seen? But that's a perfect one.
yeah. I've seen women who wanted to, pursue a dream, start a business, write a book, like start something that they felt like an imposter. They felt nervous about showing up and taking up space, and just seeing that shift where they go from like, it's this crazy dream that I'll do someday, but probably never, to it's happening now. They're living the dream. Now they're bragging about, how things actually worked out, and we're all celebrating it for them. Um, I've seen a lot of relationships that, were already dead,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody was willing to call it like end, and new beautiful things come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, like even, women who were kind of resigned to just going to be a grandma now. I'm just going to do this thing, to like now she's taking a pole dancing class and she's
Yeah.
traveling, right? And she's like, forget the like dress for your age. She's dressing for herself.
Oh my gosh. I know. Do you remember there was just like an age where women would like, it was like normal. You cut your hair off and you go get the rollers and you just like resign to being old. And they were not that old when they started doing that.
I know. I know. Like, do you remember the Golden Girls? Remember that?
Yes.
Like they were in their 50s. Those women were in their 50s. Like, what? I'm in my 50s.
I know that's not old. What was going on? Oh, that's so crazy. I love that so much. Okay, so where can we look for you? What kind of things are you up to these days that where women can find you and get involved with you if this is something they're like, I need this in my life?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm all over the place. I'm on Instagram at Be Marvelous. I'm pretty outspoken there. I'm on YouTube, and the best place to come play with me is inside the Sensual Sisterhood, which is on School. I know you're going to put links in the show notes. That's really where all the magic is happening these days. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, and there's my website, bemarvelous.com, but you know,
It's a good website. There's lots of options on there. I was on there. It's beautiful.
thanks.
So I ask everybody this, but what is your essential go-to like self-care when things get rough and you're overwhelmed? What do you do for yourself?
I put on a sensual song and I get in front of a mirror and I strip for myself.
Ooh, I love
So
that.
it's dancing, but it's bringing sensuality into it, and it's for me, for my own aliveness, for my own pleasure, for my own like making love to the mirror. That's it. That's my favorite way.
I love it. How powerful. Beautiful.
It is.
Well, is there anything else you want to leave us with today, Marta?
That pleasure is your birthright, that it's not something you have to earn, that you are worthy of receiving so much pleasure, that you have permission to access it even when the world feels like it's burning, because it's actually the fuel that allows you to like deal with, whether the world is burning or not. So yeah, pleasure is your birthright. You have permission to experience that. All of the things that make you feel ashamed and small and like limited, those are constructs. Those are not actually your truth. And if you come play with me inside the Sensual Sisterhood, you're going to start to reclaim that and see that in the women around you. Everything will shift.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming and inspiring women today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Hi, fans. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Also, share it with any women in your life who you think would enjoy it or need the extra support. If you have a story or you know someone that has a story that you think would be great on the podcast, you can submit those entries through my website. It is www.themoonflowercoachingcollective.com. That website, you can find most of my offerings. So currently, I have a free support group for women struggling with stress, burnout, and women's issues. You can find the link there. It is amazing community of women. So if you're needing a little additional support for free, join that community. I also am offering 2 free workshops a month. So every month I do around the new moon an energy block clearing workshop, new moon workshop. So if that's something you're interested in, you can find that information on my website. And also we're starting a chakra clearing series that will align with my current program. So the chakra series is completely free. March will be an intro to the chakras, and then April we'll start working our way with the root chakra, and we will work our way all the way to the crown, and then end with a full chakra alignment. So very exciting stuff. You can find those links on my website. And then my most exciting offer right now is if you're needing a little more support, you need a little more one-on-one attention, my coaching program is kicking off April 1st. You can sign up anytime now through April 1st to get a little jump start on it. It is one-on-one coaching for 6 months through burnout. It takes you through 7 proven steps to heal from burnout. It includes group coaching and will align with the chakra aligning series. So if that's something you're interested in, you can find that as well on my website, which again is www.themoonflowercollective.com. So check that out. And yeah, if you have any feedback or want to comment on the show notes, reach out. I would absolutely love that. You can support the show by buying me a cup of coffee. It really helps with editing and all the extra things that are involved. Since I do a lot of things for free, it is greatly appreciated. So yeah, thank you. Can't wait to see you on the next episode.